It's a special BumbleKast. I'm your host, Ian Flynn, the Bumble King, and joining me as always is my Bumble co-host, Kyle, JCRB Krause.
Hello, I'm here, and we're also here with a guest. It's been a long time in the making.
Please welcome the ever-patient and wonderfully gracious GoombaBroadcast.
Hello, I'm GoombaBroadcast, which is a name I go by on Discord. I also go by ZBroadcast for a long story, but I am an artist in both digital and paper. I am currently studying animation and gaming at college and hoping to get into the video game industry as a character designer and hopefully maybe also a writer, which brings me here because big fan of Sonic and, Ian Flynn, cool guy, makes his Sonic comics. That's amazing. In my spare time, I enjoy drawing my own characters for all of my own dream games that I've been working on since high school, so a lot of changes and stuff there. But I also find myself enjoying a lot of Sonic characters. That's kind of something I tend to go to a lot, like Mario, Pikmin, but a lot of Sonic. Really enjoy that. I guess it's just the cool kind of art style, like each character just having such simple yet really cool and unique silhouettes. Really nice stuff. Very, very fascinated by that. So I suppose the first kind of questions, being a college student in a moment in my life right now, I did kind of want to ask about certain questions that Ian had, like some fun experiences he's had. So, as I stated before, I am an animation and gaming major, meaning I get to learn all about the art side of game development. One of the most important elements of the major that I've especially been experiencing this semester is cooperating with other students to complete a project, just like in real life. So, Ian, I was wondering if there were any collaborative writing projects you have fond memories of, or any funny stories from that time, I suppose.
In my college days?
Yeah, or it could be, like, once you got into the industry, just a funny story.
Unfortunately, I'm rather mundane in that regard. In most of the collaborative work I've done, both in college and professionally, it was always very compartmentalized. And not necessarily, intentionally. It's just that's how it's kind of worked out. The folks I've worked with just kind of prefer to work within their own spheres, and it's always been amicable. There was no real hostility or, clashing of the minds. It was, all right, we're going to do this project. We need to accomplish A, B, and C. Who wants to do A? Okay. Who wants to do B? Okay, you're passionate about B. Go for it. Who wants to do C? Well, nobody really wants to, but everything else is vouched for. I don't mind. Yeah, we'll do this. And then you do your best job, and it all comes together. And I guess I've been rather fortunate in that regard. With the most recent collaborations with Evan Stanley in the Sonic books, we kind of co-wrote 2023 falling into 2024. And it's like, okay, what do we want to do? How do we want to do this? And we kind of pitched ideas back and forth and said, okay, let's divvy things up. Do you want to do the lead on this? I'll do the backup here. If I'm doing the backup here, can I do the lead over here? And then it's like, all right, well, here's the game plan. That got approved. All right, have fun writing scripts. And there you go.
Yes. While in college for writing, what were some of your expectations you had for when you eventually got into the industry, and how do they compare to your experiences now? Is it remotely possible to predict anything?
No. The two biggest lessons I can impart upon you, young Padawan, is number one, you have no control. And once you accept that, you gain control. The only thing you really can control in life is yourself and how you react to life as it comes to you. And once you accept that, you'll be so less stressed and so much more in control and aware. If you're anything like me, I guess. This is very broad advice, so different folks are going to react different ways. But that has been my takeaway. Number two, nobody knows what they're doing. when I went into university, I was expecting to make this big graduating step from child to adult. This is my rite of passage. I will finally understand what it means to be an adult and know my place in the world and why things work the way they do. Nah, don't happen. Everybody is kind of flying by the seat of their pants. There are some folks who've got things figured out and are legitimately on the ball, and those are the ones you really want to gravitate towards. Follow their lead. They are special folks. There are others who think they know what they're doing, and they really do not, and you have to be careful of those because they are very, very touchy over being told, no, let's not do it that way. That makes no sense. Everybody else is just as scared and confused and stressed as you are on any given day. And that's okay, because nothing in life is given. It's good to have a game plan. It's good to have aspirations. Have a course that you can chart and follow, but be prepared to change that or make detours, because it is going to happen. Man plans, God laughs, really, when you get down to it. So I had no expectations going into professional writing because I had no idea what I was doing, perfectly honest. I went after my English degree because that's what I was good at. I went after the Sonic books because I figured, how hard is it to get into the industry? So when opportunity arises, seize upon it. Absolutely. That I got my big break and I worked damn hard to make the most of it. But you can't count on that big break coming. You never know what's going to happen. So you just are continuing to strive for what you want. Any more vague, broad, useless information I can throw out there like an old man?
It's not useless. I find this all very relieving, honestly.
Oh, good. Good. Then I'll stop there before I make it worse.
Yeah, I found it especially because, I have partaken in, projects with others in college where you kind of have to work together and, there's always somebody who kind of needs to be the leader, and then you have me who's not. But I always end up having, a job in, I'm in the more art side, so perhaps, last spring I took part in a thing called Game Jam, where you take a group of students and you put them all on one team, and they have to create an entire video game within a weekend. 1 weekend, basically Saturday and Sunday, make a game. So I remember, on Saturday, pretty much all I was good at was drawing characters, so I was just pumping out different character designs over and over again, try to see if I can get them improved and stuff. I found, not all of them were going to improved, and I could have felt bad about that, but I do remember one wise thing one of my professors said. Really cool professors. I think it's called the Zen of Artistry. I don't know if you've heard about it before, but basically, the only time you own your work of art is while you create it, and once you're done, it's no longer yours. You depart from it, as a student creating all these for a grade. You distance yourself from the artwork and look at it as an outsider, so that when everyone's critiquing it, you don't take it personally. You still obviously take those critiques so you can improve upon it, but it's not a critique towards myself. It's a critique towards that artwork. And I wish I could remember where this whole thing came from, because there's a certain culture, I'm pretty sure it's from Asia, where can't remember what it was, but it's basically, I guess, kind of what I said. What's your thought on that sort of idea of Zen, the Zen of artwork?
It's a good mentality. It's somewhat embracing the notion of celebrating the impermanence of the universe. And it's kind of coupled with the concept of death of the author, where once the work is put out for public consumption, you no longer control its interpretation. So both of those combined, to me, kind of create that Zen of art. And it is a good mentality to have, at the very least, when learning how to take critiques of your material. Mm-hmm. And that is an incredibly difficult discipline to do, because it's one thing to say, yes, I have objectively put my production out here. It is no longer mine. It is within the universe. Let it be. But it's also your creation. You did things with a purpose. No, you don't want to change it that way. You thought about that. That's wrong. Why is your opinion on my work wrong? No, that's not Zen.
Yeah, especially since like I tend to hyperfixate on these characters, so it's like once I create it, it's like, yes, this is my favorite creation of all time now. So it's kind of like it is kind of. Go ahead.
Just you will have new favorite creations. There will be a litany of them, I promise.
Mm-hmm. With every project, there's always a new favorite. Sometimes those projects don't see the light of day, but can't worry on that. Always gotta move on to the next one. It's almost kind of like Sonic in a way, always running on forward. So, outside of Sonic and Mega Man, how many Ian Flynn originals are either out in the wild or in development?
Oh, wholly original projects?
Yeah.
Well, issue number 1 of The 9 Lives of Claus McGee is done. It's out. It is available for purchase and reading. By God, I got something out there. And number 2 is in production. Drogoon, which has come up on this show a lot, is in development hell, but we have a direction. I'm actually drafting the script. It is in production at long freaking last. Adam is doing concept art for it. I hope we can maybe get something running maybe by the end of the year. I don't know. That one's so much larger. It's harder to gauge. And there's a collaboration project.
So it does sound exciting, though.
Yeah, we have big aspirations for it. It's just getting that first step is a doozy. There's another collaboration project I'm working on that's in early dev. I feel like I'm more second banana to that one. The lead on that is much more driven. He's scouting artists. He's looking at potential investors and publishers. And I'm like, I'll help conceptualize and work on script. Okay, works for me. It's that compartmentalization of collaboration again. And I've burned through like a half dozen other projects of, this would be so fun to do if I could just do this, this, and this. And it's like, with what time, buddy? With what time and what talent and what budget? It's like, I should probably focus on what I have on my plate right now. And that is in addition to the contract work I'm doing. I'm working on 2 other video games. Wait, that one and that. Okay, no, sorry, 3 video games and another animation project, and I think that's all immediately in front of me. I have like 2 different to-do lists to keep track of this stuff because I am not going to be able to recall it off the top of my head.
That sounds pretty cool, though. So, while I have many assignments to work through during the semester, I also have been working on an idea for a series for quite some time now, as mentioned before. However, and this is something I have kind of asked before on the show in a mini, but sometimes I worry that a certain character might be cool to me, but not as much with other people. What would you say is a good way to figure out this issue? Like, is it best to go to a reputable friend? And if so, how many close friends does it take to know that it's enough people who won't hate the character?
Here's a really tricky balancing act. If this is your passion project, if you're making this for you, there's a large amount of who cares what anybody else thinks. This is yours. And if you like it, it stands to reason somebody else and the rest of the bajillion people on the planet is also going to like it. So, maybe just stick to your guns and make it for you. Or if you're making something and it's like, okay, I want this to appeal to a broad audience. It's not just my passion project. It's something that I want. It's a product I want to produce for consumption.
Yes.
Then you want more input. You want more perspective. And I would say go through, half dozen of your friends. I trust you to know which friends will tell you, oh yeah, that's cool, just because they want to make you happy, and which ones will go, not feeling it, and being honest, because that's the real meat and potatoes of any kind of feedback. And with that, take the feedback, there's your zen of art again, as best you can. If you go through your half dozen friends and they're all like, yeah, I'm sorry, I see what you're going for, but not digging it, then you have the incredibly painful task of going back to formula. If you get kind of a mixed bag results, like some people really like it, some folks really don't, I'd say maybe stay the course, because you've got something that might be a little polarizing, but those who dig it really dig it. And a dedicated fan base is better than none at all.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's just kind of an ambivalent, it's fine, I guess. It may still be worth looking at to retool to be a little more engaging, a little more exciting.
That does sound very fair, especially since, like, I guess again, yeah, going back to the Zen of Art, glad we kind of got a theme going here. I have found, because I have mentioned that this particular project is something I haven't worked on in high school, so, like, there would be moments where I would look back at the old drawings I made back then and think, these are not nearly as cool as I thought they worked back then. And so, like, I would be like, okay, how can I fix this? Like, the concept is there, but the design is not at all. So how do I make this look more unique or cool or anything like that? So, yeah, definitely is kind of something there. One particular character I've been working on is a villain who turns out to not be as bad near the end of the game's story, becomes more so an ally in later installments. Is there a tried and true way to make this kind of development seem natural? My biggest concern is that though his ultimate motives don't change, as he was always supposed to be a good guy, his design will look too evil to the point that it's jarring.
Going off of what you've given me, a big part of it will be the villain's, or rather the antagonist's, motivation in the first installment. If the player can understand where they're coming from, and if they can sympathize, even better. If there is a matter of the antagonist has misunderstood a situation, or they are reacting too strongly to a wrong that has been done to them, or there's an escape clause somewhere in their motivation where you're like, yeah, I can totally see where they're coming from. They're wrong, but I can't really hate them for what they're doing. That leaves you the avenue for them to grow or change or reverse course or come to a new understanding so that they have that trajectory that you want. Also, do not make them too villainous in their actions. If they are accomplishing a goal within certain parameters, folks will be more forgiving of it. Like if they have their invading army come in, but all they're doing is, occupying streets and keeping people inside their offices and demanding all the McDonald's delivered to the Grand Overlord. That's one thing. Yeah. If they're storming the city and kicking babies out of windows, you can't walk that back. Your villain is steadfastly villain, and you try to make him good, it ain't gonna fly unless he's like possessed by Satan or something. You need to make sure that you don't go too far with the antagonist's villainous actions. There has to be a degree of forgivability there. And that's going to vary from person to person. Some people are going to be far more, lawful good. If they do bad, they are bad. Not going to let them escape. But in general, the broadest audience, I think, if you give them an opportunity to see someone redeem themselves, they'll latch onto it. People love a redemption arc.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I suppose without giving away too much detail, this game kind of has some inspirations from Mario Odyssey or say Kingdom Hearts, where just I love character design, so I want to fill in just as many as possible. I have been wondering though, since this is a world that's going to be filled with many unique creatures, if the main character isn't a colorful animal, how do I ensure that people will like him and don't find him annoying?
That is very much up to personal taste. I think let me back that up. When you look at characters like Sonic, who are bright and colorful and accessible, you need to not fixate on the fact that it's an but look at what design elements make him so approachable and compare him to other mascot-like characters who have found purchase within the cultural zeitgeist. And some of the things are very clear and often contoured silhouette, large expressive eyes and facial expressions. Sonic is pretty much all eyes and mouth, along with Mario to a large degree, Mickey Mouse, characters that are very expressive and accessible. And for all the brightness to them, they are very simple designs in terms of detail. You can always add on more, but as long as you have the core, clean, crisp design, that will immediately make them more accessible. I would dare say compare Sora out of Kingdom Hearts 1 to where he is in Kingdom Hearts 3, design-wise. Kingdom Hearts 1, he is very Disney-esque.
Mm-hmm.
And while some folks might find him annoying, he is still accessible. He is still bright. He is still comparatively simple to later Kingdom Hearts designs. He has that big, bright, expressive, accessible face. And then as the story has gone on and matured and has taken on other twists and turns, there are more complications added to the design, but you've already latched onto this character. And so you are able to come with him with that growth. Going back to your earlier point with your antagonist, he may be super villainous in his initial design, but that just gives you room to riff on it later on. Immediate thing that comes to mind is out of the Saban Power Rangers, when they introduced the Green Ranger. He is definitely more aggressive looking than the others. He has a more distinctly snarly dragon-ish face with the helmet. He has the large angular gold shoulder armor. He is more aggressive in design by just the very nature of his presentation. But when he turns good, it's completely recontextualized. So instead of being, oh, he's the cool evil ranger, now it's like, oh, he's the badass new ranger. And nothing changed in the design, but all the elements that were threatening before are now empowering. So that's something else to keep in mind with your villain, is everything that is threatening in the beginning can become empowering for him later on.
That is really good. Like, comes off as threatening in that context, but then empowering in the new one. That is really good. I need to think about that. Yeah, like Scrapnik Mechasonic, said by
Yeah.
That's a really good example, as well as a parent. So the best part about original works is that you call all the shots. However, I was wondering if your works, such as Dragoon and the others you mentioned, do you find it necessary to give yourself mandates or rules to keep things grounded?
Yes, absolutely. And those, while they are my projects, I am completely reliant on the artistic talent behind them. And so concessions and compromises and another adjective along that line are needed, because if they are going to contribute their own vision to this, I need to be open to their input. And I'm coming to these artists for their particular skills. I want them to bring what they can to the project. Like, I specifically went after Jonathan Griffiths for Claus McGee because his design work is just phenomenal. And his comedic timing and storytelling ability are top notch. So I knew that he would absolutely nail the tone that I was going for visually with Claus McGee. And when it came to designs, I'm like, okay, I'm looking for something like this. And some of it was a little more on point, and some of it was much more vague. And he was able to zero in on each of those characters and those themes and those ideas and actually find the balance and nail it each time. I think like maybe once in a rare blue moon, it's like, that's not exactly what I'm looking for. But now that we have that baseline, I can say I want it to go more in this direction. Emphasize these aspects or downplay these elements, or this is the read I'm getting off of it. I want it to go more in this direction. But that's a bit of a tangent. Your question was mandates for myself. And absolutely, like with Claus McGee, I have an incredibly bad habit of plotting out way too much, making the project much too big and stumbling over all the nuances and stuff. And while Claus does have a little bit to that, I wanted it specifically to be shorter, more self-contained, funnier, lighter on the lore. Just something that's kind of easily accessible and fun. So when I start thinking, okay, this is the big dramatic reveal, or here's where I seed things for 20 books out, it's like, no, stop, bad, get the squirt bottle out, back off. And with Drogoon, because it is a science fantasy series and it relies heavily on magic, I have to set myself a hard magic system. Because if we're going, classic Arabian Nights, in the original story of Aladdin, there was no limit on the wishes. He could wish for anything as much as he wanted, and there's like zero narrative stakes in that. It was the invention of the three wishes it predates, Disney's interpretation, but it was the crux to the revision to that film. I don't know if you've heard any of the development of that film, but back when like Aladdin had his mother was a character and there were infinite wishes and yada, yada, yada. And the story was a mess. And the minute they introduced the three wishes structure, it made the story so much more engaging because now there were stakes. Now there were limits. Now you had to think creatively around the challenges. Same thing with Drogoon. If we're going to have a series that relies on magic, then the magic needs to have rules and limitations. Otherwise, anybody can bippity-boppity-boo their way out of whatever the problem is. And that's a snore. That's just boring.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. It is funny because, I remember in Aladdin, there's a deleted song that Jafar had where it was like, I think it was called Humiliate the Boy, where like he's just making wishes all throughout the song to make fun of Aladdin. It's like, yeah, the plot could have ended real fast at that point.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So, I guess kind of on a Disney note, outside of Sonic and OC content, I have been considering doing Epic Mickey fan comic, as I mentioned way in a Bumble mini time ago. For some reason, I've always enjoyed this particular game and considered it a gem amongst other Disney games, considering how much passion was put into the first one. I was wondering, what are y'all's opinions on creating a fan comic of a long-dead series such as this? Would adding new elements be something worth taking? Not like canon matters much in this case.
I am of the stance that fan material is a great way to self-teach any discipline. If you're going to make a fan comic, if you're going to make a fan animation, whatever, because you have a lot of the tool set already provided. You have the characters, you have the motivations, you have the themes, the settings, all the stuff that you would have to figure out on your own making an original project is provided with you. And you already see how it works. All you're doing is getting under the hood and disassembling it and trying to put it back together in this new format. Taking, the pacing of a story in a game will not work with a comic in most instances because they're completely different instances, completely different narrative flows, completely different interactions with the user. There are certain parallels, to be sure, but I don't think you can do 100% one-to-one without adapting and adding and subtracting. So when you are doing your fan comic adaptation, it will fall onto you, and I'm probably retreading some of the ground with the mini, but it will fall upon you to look at those pacing elements and decide how best it will fit with this static visual storytelling format, and what is it that is conveyed through gameplay that you have to add to the comic to get that point across, because there's something visceral and immediately engaging with something interactive like a game that you cannot replicate in a static medium like comics. So what goes missing in translation, and how do you implement that into this new format?
Mm-hmm. Sounds good. So let's just about all the questions there, but I guess I could ask a few Sonic questions since I seem to manage to not do any. So, not sure how this one's going to age, but with Sonic Superstars, what is Fang's current relation with Bean and Bark?
That is a big ol' hashtag knowing smile,
Happy to
pending
hear
approval. Can't touch on it just right now, but you'll see. You will see.
I am satisfied with hearing knowing smile. Smile. Fantastic words. Ian is suddenly teleported to the time Sonic X was being written, and the writers were so impressed by his unintentional time-traveling skills that they make you the head writer. What changes would you make? Would you try to incorporate elements from the comics? How would you turn Chris into a fan favorite?
Oh gosh. Okay, so I have power of God here. I kind of liked how Series 1 was a wee bit episodic at first, but at the same time, the shenanigans with the humans was kind of, it's boring. As fun as like Ella and Mr. Tanaka were, and I stand by that the cruise ship episode is one of the funniest things ever to come out of Sonic, bar none. That episode was immaculate. That you don't come to Sonic for the mundane. You come to Sonic for the fantastic. And I remember being just obscenely hyped at the end of season 1 when we get Supersonic and when Angel Island appears and you hear a voice and it's like, is that supposed to be Tikal? Are we getting an adventure adaptation? And we did. And it was okay. And then we got Sonic Adventure 2 adapted and it was not as good. And then we kind of didn't do Heroes. And then we did a very, very different, lamer version than Battle. And it's like, no. So what I would like to see, what I wish Sonic X would have done, and what I would just like to see in a Sonic animation in general, is just do a fun, straight up Sonic adventure. You know, we don't need alternate realities, whether it's going to Earth or it's going to the Shatterverse, or we don't need new siblings out of nowhere. We don't need to reinvent things so that it goes for the 90s eco-terrorism is fun angle. Just do a Sonic story. Like the OVA, even the OVA kind of falls prey to this with Sarah and the president and is largely unnecessary. But everything else, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles running through these weird and fantastic landscapes, fighting giant robots, going through enormous cities and unexplained warp points with a kickin' 90 soundtrack. Do that. Take all like the first, I don't know, half dozen of Sonic X episodes. Like when he's running into the Eggman base to attack. That was fire. When he's assaulting the one base to get Cream, to rescue Cream. That was great. When he and Knuckles are pitted against each other. Fantastic episode. Love it. The very finale, when everybody's kind of dealing with a world without Sonic, and you have Amy hucking hammers at the latest egg carrier and Tails flying to meet him. All great stuff. More of that. More of the Sonic crew palling around, interacting, doing cool adventures stuff. And if you need to have a central overarching plot, follow the formula that worked so well in the early aughts. Eggman has come across a new power source and must be stopped, and that leads to a globe-trotting adventure. Or, if you don't want to go with the Elder Core angle, he's after the Chaos Emeralds again. It doesn't matter. You just need an excuse to go to new and interesting places and do fun things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, imagine if the Sonic OVA ended up becoming its own anime itself. I mean, just thinking, like, in that era, in Classic, like, before this split between what characters were allowed, imagine if they just allowed themselves to expand on that. That could have been a lot of fun.
I would pay a shiny nickel to look into that alternate world where you have like the very precursors to the old 2-world mentality, where you have the land of the sky and the land of darkness with that weird kind of warp point in between. And just the sheer marvel of giant ice bridges connecting sky islands over a long since ruined Earth. So neat, so cool. I wish we could have seen where that would have gone. I mean, I'm happy with where we are now, clearly, but it could have been.
Yes. So, I guess one more question about Sonic X I was kind of curious about. When you said that there were certain, mandates of how far you're able to go with the comic, I did notice that, throughout its run, it did kind of tie into the anime, having, explained how Emerald was in Eggman's tower and kind of stuff like that. I was wondering, was there mandates stopping y'all from connecting it to the Season 2 finale, the Worlds Collide arc?
The Sonic X series you were saying?
Yeah, the Archie comic series for Sonic X.
How long was it between that and Worlds Collide?
The last time I read it...
Because Universe was fairly far along once we got Worlds Collide. So at that point...
Yeah, it was 4 or 5
Sonic
years.
X was... Yeah, jeez. At that point, Sonic X was, dead and buried. It had ended its run well into when the comic started up, and the comic was kind of limited in its scope because we couldn't really go into Season 3 territory. So it was decided, you know what, rather than just let this title continue until it dwindles into negative sales, just end it on a high note and move on to the sister book and ride that wave. So Sonic X was never considered for Worlds Collide.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I should have stopped you. I meant the Worlds Collide arc in Season 2 when the planets were going to merge.
Oh.
Oops.
I'm very sorry about that.
Oops, not the Mega Man crossover.
It's almost like this title's been used by everybody at some point.
What? No. Are you sure you don't own Endgame outright, Ian?
It's a Spongebob song, even.
Trying to think back, because we were in a weird point where the comic had addressed certain episode plot points. It was kind of... we covered this on a BumbleKast at some point recently. It was kind of soft continuity. So it took cues from the show, and we tried to adhere by its framework, but, mistakes happen. And we couldn't move into Season 3 because it was so tonally different than everything else. And I want to say SEGA didn't want us to do that. I can't remember now. That might have been just a choice on our part to keep it familiar with the extended cast. We couldn't add any new characters, and we couldn't really move the plot along in any new direction. And I think because of where the comics had referenced the show, we were stuck in a kind of limbo before the Season 2 finale. And so we just kind of did whatever at that point.
I know, was it glorious?
Remember, we had fun, but I don't remember too many notes on SEGA about the continuity of that itself.
Well, that pretty much wraps up all the questions I had, so I just want to tell y'all both, actually, I guess there's one question I could ask since it might be worth it. How are you doing, Kyle? How's your day been?
I'm doing pretty good.
I apologize.
My day was all right. As we're recording this, yesterday I actually got to meet some other Bumble folks in real life for the first time. So met at a convention here in Phoenix, so that was fun. That was a good time. So
that's good.
Yep, that was cool. I do exist. Yes, it's true.
Yeah. Nice, so because really, you two really are a lot of fun. Y'all are really cool guys. I really appreciate Flynn's work. I didn't read much of the comics back when I was a little kid. I did kind of learn a bit about Sonic Universe. I remember picking up a few back when Toys R Us was a thing. Oh, those fun times. And then I would look at the Sonic wikis and I see, what? This old character from the cartoons is back with a cool modern design? And then eventually, I would look at some of the arcs. I remember recently looking at the, what was it called again? The Sonic Universe, where it's kind of like a sequel to Shadow the Hedgehog, where, you have the new Black Comet and there's Black Death and Eclipse, and I thought that's so cool. That it's like the sequel we never got, and it's just Shadow is so cool. It's like you get to see his development and everything, and it's like all in this like kind of extra content. It's so nice, and I'm kind of glad that it's still, even though it's not as prevalent in the IDWs, it is cool that now it is considered canon to the games, and every now and then we would get those classic anniversaries where we still get to see Fang or Bean or the Witch Carters, and hoping to see even more classic characters, and hopefully, I don't know, maybe if like down the line with Sonic Team collaborating with Sonic Superstars, who knows? Maybe the ban will be lifted on characters or not, but I don't know. But point is, Ian's just such a really cool writer, and it is nice getting to see his work and kind of exploring the certain aspects of the Sonic series that usually aren't as explored nowadays. I probably sound like a big fanboy here in the whole tangent.
Not at all. Not at all. Keep pouring it on. I live off of this.
Yes. And it's cool that you also do the BumbleKast and talk with fans and get to learn wonderful wisdom from you two. So, yes, thank you for that.
Thank you for calling it wisdom. I appreciate that. So as we wrap it up here, is there anywhere you want to send folks? Do you have a YouTube, a Patreon, a Twitter, a Pinterest page, whatever?
Well, on Twitter, or X as they call it, for however long that's going to last, I go by @ZBroadcast_, and I occasionally use that. I also have a YouTube channel that is currently kind of dormant at the moment, but however, I have been working on a few Sonic X YTPs, amongst other animated content that I hope to pump out soon. And I've also recently started using DeviantArt to post my artwork that I, for some reason, have been posting on Discord. But yeah, so I have that too. Hopefully, we'll continue to grow in like art and videos and stuff. And yeah, been a lot of fun. Thanks for having me here.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Kyle, you got anything to end on?
Be good to yourselves, be good to each other.
All right, and we'll see you next time on the BumbleKast.
I stole it.
I have, especially that first point about like, oh, you were gonna say something, Kyle?
No. Sorry, I was just laughing.
Oh.
I'm sorry, the cat just sneezed on me in the middle of my sentence, and I completely lost my train of thought. Thank you, buddy. Really appreciate that.
Bless you.
Thanks, Tenebrae. You've been listening to the BumbleKast, a co-production of Bumble King Comics and the KNGI Network. Original theme music composed by Ken Coda Snyder. Remixed intro by T-Lopes. Find out more information, along with podcast feeder links, MP3 downloads, and more at bumbleking.com and kngi.org.
Audio sound.
You
Sounds fine on my end.
Yeah. I mean, you're not rocking Sonic Badge's setup, but then again, neither are we. So,
All right. I was just curious because I had this mic set up, this very nice, lovely mic that I used my earnings on, and unfortunately, when I plugged it in, I could not hear y'all.
Oh no!
So,
does it? I'm
you know
guessing
what?
It reroutes output to the microphone, huh?
probably. Well, I don't know. Maybe
Yeah,
I just need to plug it into a different USB. Would that work?
No, you just need to then go into Discord and set your output settings back to the correct device.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So, where will I find that setting?
I do this all the time. So,
Yep.
Go into settings.
Okay. I'm a 20-year-old, but I'm like an old man of technology.
No, I completely get you. This is what I can help for once. It isn't Kyle.
Do it,
I'm
Ian.
Kyle,
Do it, Ian.
help me with the thing. I can help. I can do this.
Do it, Ian. You don't need me.
So you're in settings,
Right, settings.
and then go to voice and video.
Voice and video. Voice and video.
And the top two options will be input device and output device.
Okay, so input should be microphone, right?
Yep. And then output will be whatever it is you're listening to us on.
Oh, speakers.
Give it a
Okay,
try.
so if I plug this back in, then y'all should not go away. So,
Hello?
all right.
Oh, I heard
How's that sound?
Aha. Okay. Go ahead and talk. Can you hear us? Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. How do I sound?
Okay, check test. You sound even better.
Yeah.
Testing. 1, 2, 3. A, B, C.
Improvement.
Sonic sucks. Mario is better. All right. Improved. Nice. Wonderful.
Well, thanks for coming on the show. Get out.
The hottest of takes.
Noodles.
Nah, you're right.